Welcome to The Road Less Traveled, brought to you by the Loreseekers podcast. In this lore series, we will explore the darkest corners of Tamriel to present to you some of the rarest and most intriguing lore books that we've discovered in our travels. Each episode will begin with a reading of the text. We will then continue with a brief explanation of the events surrounding the story. Although our goal is to be as accurate to the history as possible, remember that the lore in the Elder Scrolls is usually told from the perspective of its reader. So fill your mug and join us as we seek the lore of the deep and magical land of Tamriel. The Night Mother's Truth by Gaston Belafort. A thesis on the Dark Brotherhood and its spiritual leader. Found in Bankarai, Reaper's March, and the Rift. Although various works have been written on the subjects of both Morrowind's Morag Tong and Tamriel's more widespread Dark Brotherhood, there remains confusion as to precisely when and how these two feared assassins' guilds formed. Or, more specifically, when and how the Dark Brotherhood split from the Morag Tong, as the former is widely accepted to have sprung from the latter. The largest point of contention seems to be the figure of the Night Mother, a woman who figures prominently in both organizations. Through extensive research and interviews, and not inconsiderable risk to my own life, for the Dark Brotherhood holds this information sacred, I have finally solved this ages-old mystery. I've finally uncovered the Night Mother's truth. Although her name has been lost to time, the Night Mother was once a mere mortal, a dark elf woman who lived in a small village once located near where the city of Bravel now stands, in the imperial province of Cyrodiil. She was a respected member of the Morag Tong and, like her fellow members, this woman made her trade as an assassin in service to the Daedric Prince Mephala. In fact, the woman held the title of Night Mother, reserved for the highest-ranking female member of the organization. To be Night Mother of a particular sect was to be that group's matron, the favorite of Mephala, both respected and feared. However, it was not Mephala who facilitated the transformation from woman to specter, but another, some would say far deeper form of evil, Sithis, the Dreadlord, the embodiment of the unending void. Following the potentate's assassination in the Second Era year 324, strife descended upon the Morag Tong, and the guild was all but eradicated in Cyrodiil and much of the Empire. It was shortly after these events that the Dunmer woman claimed to hear the voice of Sithis himself. The Dreadlord, she claimed, was displeased. He was unhappy with the Morag Tong's lack of success. The void, he told her, was hungry for souls, and it was her destiny to set things right. And so, according to Dark Brotherhood legend, Sithis visited the Night Mother in her bedchamber and begat her 5 children. 2 years passed before the unthinkable happened. The Dark Elf woman followed through with the Dreadlord's ultimate plan. One night, she murdered her children and sent their souls straight to the void, straight to their father. When they learned of this affront to decency, the people of the village rallied against the woman, for such an act was considered incomprehensible, even for a Night Mother of the Morag Tong. In one night of vengeance, they descended upon the woman, killing her, and burning down the house in which the atrocity took place. And that was the end of the story. Or so everyone thought. A little more than 30 years later, an unnamed man heard a strange, comforting voice inside his very head. just as the Dunmer woman claimed to hear the voice of Sithis inside hers. The voice identified herself as the Night Mother and named the man Listener, the first of many. And so the unholy matron set her servant on his path. He would find a new organization, a guild of assassins known as the Dark Brotherhood, in service not to Mephala, but to the Dreadlord Sithis. The Morag Tong, now surviving only in Morrowind, was an artifact of a forgotten age. The Dark Brotherhood would marry business with death. The organization would grow in wealth and power, and the void would swell with fresh souls. It was, the Night Mother told her listener, the perfect arrangement. In the early days of the Dark Brotherhood, the bodies of the Night Mother and her children were recovered from their original burial site and interred in a crypt beneath the site of her house. And there they remain, even today. So if, in your travels, you find yourself in the city of Bravo and make a wish at the statue of the lucky old lady, as is the local custom, know that you stand on sacred, if evil, ground. For you stand above the Night Mother, the unholy matron herself, and your luck has just run out. From a mysterious place in the shadows, a guild of assassins lurk in the dark corners of Tamriel. The Dark Brotherhood is not an organization operating within the confines of the law. When the law does find them, they use their connections with the underground world to manipulate the system with bribery, blackmail, coercion, and murder in order to keep their activities secret. Although the Dark Brotherhood is known for their worship of the Dreadfather Sithis, they are led by the Night Mother. Some tales have revealed that the Night Mother was the wife of Sithis and murdered their 5 children in his honor. Some consider the Night Mother to be none other than Mephala herself, the patroness of the Dark Brotherhood. The next in command in the Brotherhood is the Black Hand, a group comprised of a listener and 4 speakers. The listener is a direct link to the Night Mother and receives orders from her words. The listener relays the information to the speakers, who in turn dispatch a Dark Brotherhood agent to execute the orders. The identities of the listener and the speaker are very well hidden, even within the Dark Brotherhood itself. Throughout the history of the Dark Brotherhood, a special relationship has been formed with the Argonian race. An Argonian-only sect of the Dark Brotherhood is known as the Shadowscales, and exists from those Argonians born under the sign of the Shadow. These hatchlings are taken at birth and presented to the Dark Brotherhood for training in stealth and assassination from a young age. The Shadowscales fulfill their assignment to the Dark Brotherhood in service of Argonia, and are accepted into full membership with the Brotherhood upon adulthood. Deserters of the Shadowscales are punished with death. The most well-known method of gaining the attention of the Dark Brotherhood to acquire their services is to perform a ritual known as the Black Sacrament. This profane process allows those who perform it to be heard by the Night Mother herself. The ritual requires actual body parts, in the form of a heart, skull, bones, or flesh, to be encircled by candles and a dagger rubbed with the petals of the nightshade plant. The following is whispered as part of the process.
Sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear. Sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear.
Many scholars have speculated that the birth of the Dark Brotherhood began in the Second Era with the Morag Tong, an ancient guild of assassins headquartered in Morrowind. It is believed that the Dark Brotherhood was formed when many members split from the Morag Tong over the backlash the guild received after they assassinated Emperor Remen III in the First Era and his successor, Erstadu Shai, in the Second Era. After this pair of acts, the Morag Tong was outlawed across the continent. One reason for the split was believed to be that after they were outlawed, the Morag Tong appealed to Morrowind's tribunal to ensure their existence. In exchange for their continued existence, the Morag Tong stopped all worship of Mephala and began worship of Vivec instead. The Morag Tong would also limit their contracts to the inter-house rivalry that existed in Morrowind. Many members of the Morag Tong disagreed with these terms, subsequently forming the Dark Brotherhood. A second theory for the split from the Morag Tong and the Dark Brotherhood's formation was more religious in nature. It was speculated that after the assassinations of the leaders and the Morag Tong's persecution, Sithis himself spoke to a former assassin and demanded the formation of a new guild, which would continue to worship Sithis, not Vivec, and better satisfy the Void's hunger for souls. Some also believed the Dark Brotherhood was formed as an offshoot to the Thieves Guild, not the Morag Tong. This belief holds that some members of the Thieves Guild found it easier to perform a burglary when the occupants were killed first. The first of these unlucky occupants was a woman, who was said to have become the Night Mother herself. The Thieves Guild leadership disagreed with this heinous practice, and thus the Dark Brotherhood was founded. The Dark Brotherhood prospered during the centuries during the Second Empire. They had become an incredibly powerful entity, particularly in the Gold Coast region. Many nobles lost their lives during a power struggle for the region. In the Third Era, Tiber Septim's heir himself, Pelagius I, was murdered by the Dark Brotherhood as he prayed in the Temple of the One. Despite many internal power struggles and outside attempts to dismantle the organization, the Dark Brotherhood spread its power and influence across Tamriel, having a hidden guild hall in every city or town by the Third Era year 405. However, despite several attempts, the Dark Brotherhood never gained control over the region of Morrowind, as they were repelled by the Morag Tong at every turn. Late in the Third Era, the Dark Brotherhood was plagued with betrayal from within its ranks, when a trusted speaker, Mathau Bellamont, set forth a plan to avenge the death of his mother, who had been assassinated by the Dark Brotherhood. During this time, most of the members of the Brotherhood's sanctuary at Cheydinal were murdered by a rising newcomer to the Order. This newcomer was deceived by Bellamont into his purification in the Brotherhood. Subsequently, 2 of the 4 speakers were killed before Bellamont himself was slain by the newcomer, who was then named the Listener by the Night Mother. The Fourth Era brought about further struggle and crippling blows to the Dark Brotherhood, as external and internal factors prevented the organization from truly recovering from the events of the late Third Era. Due to the events and instability of much of Tamriel during the Great War, several Dark Brotherhood sanctuaries were destroyed or evacuated, scattering Dark Brotherhood agents in the chaos. Many agents became the targets of both major political parties of the Great War. During this time, the Dark Brotherhood found difficulty in securing and organizing contracts in the affected regions, weakening their notorious reputation. The Shadow Scale training facility at Archon in Blackmarsh was abandoned, and without new recruits to train, the shadow scale tradition began to disappear. During this dark period for the Dark Brotherhood, the Black Hand became divided on which direction to take the organization. Because of this, many sanctuaries began to fall with the ranks of the Brotherhood lost, disorganized, and demoralized. By the early part of the Fourth Era, only 4 known active sanctuaries remained in all of Tamriel: Cheydinal in Cyrodiil, Wayrest in High Rock, Corinth in Elsewhere, and Falkreath in Skyrim. However, in the Fourth Era, year 188, civil unrest led to the destruction of the Wayrest Sanctuary, again scattering the Brotherhood. In the attack, several members of the Brotherhood were killed, including the Listener. The Night Mother's crypt was destroyed, save the Night Mother's stone coffin, which was saved by the sole survivor and brought to Cheydinal. Because of this, there was no new Listener chosen by the Night Mother, leaving the Brotherhood to rely on word of mouth to attain contracts. Attempts to revive the Night Mother's voice were employed, including the Black Hand's reaffirmation of the ancient position of Keeper, who was charged with keeping the Night Mother's corpse intact so her spirit could remain in Tamriel and speak to a listener. When Rasha, the leader of the Cheydinal Sanctuary, proclaimed to be the listener, she failed to confirm the words that the Night Mother had taught to all listeners, and she was subsequently killed. Soon, there was only one remaining member of the Dark Brotherhood in Cyrodiil. Cicero, the Keeper, went mad from isolation, demoralization, and desperation. By the Fourth Era, year 200, the Night Mother was taken by Cicero to the Falkreath Sanctuary. However, the Falkreath Sanctuary was destroyed around this time, and most, if not all, agents were killed. It is still unknown whether or not Cicero reached the sanctuary before it was destroyed. Some reports claim the entirety of the Brotherhood was wiped out. However, many claims assert that the Brotherhood survived and are still in operation to this day.